Important notice: the following content may be triggering. Viewer discretion is advised. All discussions are based on personal opinions and experiences. If you or someone you know needs help, please reach out to a local support organization. Important notice: the following content may be triggering. Viewer discretion is advised. All discussions are based on personal opinions and experiences. If you or someone you know needs help, please reach out to a local support organization. Important notice: the following content may be
the Love Giving Marathon here at Break the Silence Against Domestic Violence. Today we're coming to you as a community of survivors and advocates, allies, and change makers to take real action against domestic violence. You know, domestic violence affects 1 in 3 women, 1 in 4 men in their lifetime. And right now, as we speak, someone is looking for a safe place to turn. And that's why we're here. BTSADV is the nation's largest survivor-led domestic violence nonprofit. And we provide critical support to survivors that are needed. You know, we provide peer support, a dedicated support line, healing retreats, education, and advocacy. But we can only do this with your help. So today we have a goal to raise $10,000 to keep our programs running and to expand our reach. And every dollar you donate goes directly to help survivors find safety, healing, and hope. So here's how you can help. Across the bottom of the screen, there is a donation link to our campaign that we're running today. Or you can also go to btsadv.org/donate. Every dollar today we receive, you will get a special thank you from a survivor for a donation that has helped support them. And throughout this marathon, you're going to hear powerful survivor stories, expert discussions, deep dives into realities of domestic violence. We also want to show you exactly how your donations can make a difference. So don't wait. Be a part of the solution. Every $10, $50, $100 donations make us closer to our $10,000 goal today, closer to saving lives. So let's get started. And today I have with me Midori Davidson. She is our vice chair here at Break the Silence Against Domestic Violence. And in our first segment, we're kicking off things a deep dive into celebrity scandals and how the media shapes the narrative around domestic violence awareness. So welcome, Midori. I'm so glad you're here.
Hey, hello everybody. How's everybody doing out there?
It's over here. So as people comment in, please feel free to give us your opinion and join the conversation as we're talking today. So wonderful.
Hello.
Okay, so Midori, I know we've been talking quite a bit about the different things that we have seen. I know the other day you were talking to me about a documentary that you watched on P. Diddy.
Yes, it is on Peacock. So for those of you who haven't had the opportunity to watch it, please watch it. It was such an eye opener. It talked about his childhood and how his father was murdered when he was just a baby. I think he was only 2 years old when his father was murdered for being a snitch, if you will. His father was a driver for Frank Lucas and ran with people who worked for Nicky Barnes. And in Harlem, those were two of the most gargantuan drug kingpins of that era. We're talking the early 70s. So he sold some heroin to an undercover cop and he got killed. Um, so Diddy never knew his father. He was raised by his mother, and he saw things at a very young age that he probably should have been sheltered from, but he
Yeah.
wasn't. And on top of that, because he wasn't your typical street guy, they lived in Mount Vernon, which was the suburb of Manhattan. It's also the suburb of the Bronx because if you look at the layout of New York, there's Manhattan, there's the Bronx, and Mount Vernon splits the two boroughs. So he lived in the suburbs. I mean, his father, before he died, had a house built for him and his mom. So he lived like a rich kid, and kids knew that. Children can almost smell a weakling, if you will. And so he was picked on and bullied. So this documentary shows how bullying plays a paramount aspect into violence. And now there's new research being conducted called ACEs, which is adverse childhood experiences. How these adverse childhood experiences shape your thought process and your worldview as an adult play a paramount amount. And I say paramount because it's huge. Look at the way he beat Cassie. He kicked her and beat her and threw her around that lobby in the hotel like she was a dude. And this is how he was beat up as a child. So the things that have come into play since he's been in jail, since he's been exposed, were very similar experiences that he went through as a child. Another key component was the murder of the City College Nine. I was in California when I heard about this. My father worked at City College in the sociology department. Diddy and Heavy D were promoting a celebrity basketball tournament, and he oversold the tickets. By the tickets being oversold, way more people were coming than what the room could allow. 9 people got trampled on, suffered from suffocation, or stepped on to get into this gym. And rather than doing a gargantuan family settlement, he tried to settle with the families individually, but it wasn't until years later. There wasn't an apology issued, there wasn't any kind of remorse for what took place. And he even was seen on footage like at MTV saying that he did not oversell those tickets when in fact he did. And my mouth just dropped because again, here you are at the scene of the crime. You're the
Right.
culprit, no apology, no remorse, no one held him accountable. And look at the man that we are staring at.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
and,
So
and
if
yeah, it's
violence can
unbelievable how much.
create that kind
Yeah.
of
Oh,
domestic violence playing a role in the research of adverse childhood experiences or ACEs. I am just wowed by it, really.
yeah. Uh, that's pretty incredible
Oh, yeah.
because.
Oh, yeah. Because that one of those murders of the City College Nine was a beautiful young girl. I
Mhm,
think she was still in high school.
right.
And all you could say is, here's $50,000 for your trouble. My bad.
Oh, my bad.
My bad. Oops. Here's 50,000 though. I mean, my mouth just dropped. Just dropped. Like, if this is your worldview of people, it was shaped by the things you saw as a child. Like the freak off parties,
Yeah.
his closest childhood friend said, yeah, his mother used to throw those.
Whoa,
Yes.
really?
Like it was nothing for them as kids to walk by a room and see two people naked in the room, door wide open.
Wow.
No boundaries at all.
It really does put out there, a lot of certain behaviors are learned.
Yes. Yes. A
We
lot of
repeat
behaviors
that
are learned,
cycle, don't
and
we?
yeah, and a lot of our behaviors are shaped by what we've experienced as a child. And this is really groundbreaking because in previous research, childhood experiences were never brought up. It was always thought to be what you encountered as an adult, or what did that parent expose that child to, but never the totality of that person's childhood. Never. So for this to be brought up with a celebrity as gargantuan of a personality as Diddy is groundbreaking research, because that means now going forward, when we look at domestic violence cases, we're going to be looking at adverse childhood experiences at both the perpetrator as well as the victim. So it's creating a bigger scope for domestic violence to be seen as a humane and inhumane act of trauma,
Mm. Yes,
because we take the human experience tattered with inhumane activity. So now we have a bigger framework to look at domestic violence with.
oh, absolutely. I know that some people, and I used to be one of those in the past, to be quite frankly, you go, well, those kind of experiences didn't shape me, but in a way they do. I find that most people, it shapes you either into the opposite extreme or they become the thing they hated.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Like, even with my own experience, people ask me, well, why didn't you report your domestic violence situation to the police? Well, when I was molested at the age of 4, the person whom I told was my mother. And my mother decided to take it in her own hands by trying to stab the 13-year-old boy who penetrated me anally. And when the cops came, rather than ask us or ask my mother what's going on, they tried to arrest her for obstruction of property and inciting violence. It wasn't until an older cop came on the scene and he saw me in the back seat. He said, no, don't arrest the mother. Something else is going on here.
Right,
Something doesn't look right. So they didn't arrest my mom because of him. So it taught me law enforcement can't be trusted because they can misconstrue what you have to say. And if that is a general conception or perception from the general public of law enforcement, as my great grandmother used to say, when America catches a cold, Black people catch pneumonia. So it's twice as bad in communities of color. There's lack of trust. So it taught me to, well, I better be resourceful and handle my own problem.
right,
Yeah. And so many women have been faced with that dilemma because their stories are misconstrued or they're not believed, or God forbid if their perpetrator has a reputation in the community as being a do-gooder, then you're liver meat, you're nothing.
right. Well, and it's difficult to overcome some of this, especially in light of like these celebrity scandals like
Oh
Diddy,
yeah.
because the media focuses on the salaciousness of it,
Yes.
and it, for me as a survivor, makes it feel like uh, you're still put into a spotlight of, unless it's that kind of a salacious type level, then what you may go through is not quite as valid.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And for also with that kind of salaciousness, it then isolates then the actual event itself, because you're going to purposely leave out details, because you're going to try and make one person look better than the other. So further misconstruction then of the testimony.
Hmm.
So the whole idea of examining childhood experiences is huge, because it brings a background story into light. So that right there, I when I watched that on Diddy, like I said, my mouth was dropped the whole time. I was like, "Whoa, his mom threw freak off parties." That explains a lot, because you did them too well. I'm sorry. For Walmart to be like, "Look, we're getting rid of our baby oil at 99 cents a bottle."
I know.
When I saw that at Walmart,
Oh,
I
that's
walked
what
around
I
the
was.
store cracking up.
I was in the Walmart and I told my husband I saw them move all the baby oil to like an end cap with a clearance, and I was like, "Is this what the scandal
Yes.
brings
Oh my
on?"
God. They had
It's
it. The
like,
Walmart I was in, they had it in a basket in the middle of the feminine care aisle. 99 cents. Like, get this out of here.
it's just, it's terrible. It really is. But you have to laugh sometimes
You do.
because
God
it's
has
just,
the best sense of humor. And when I saw that, I was walking around the store laughing so loud. People were looking at me like I was cuckoo. And I'm just pointing at the
well, I
baby oil
wasn't the
sign.
only one. Everybody going by was going, Diddy, Diddy. That's why we can't get rid of the baby oil. But
Yeah, like all the
still,
younger kids knew what I was laughing at. The older adults were like, "What's wrong with her?" It was pretty awesome.
in a way, this is, what he did is just so horrific, but at the
Yes.
same time, if we don't talk about it, if we don't have conversations, if we don't have the conversations about how the media treats this, is anything ever going to change?
No. And that's the other thing. At some point, we have to address how society and societal standards of the time are affecting motives and affecting the trajectory of domestic violence. Depression by definition is anger turned inward. So, as we are facing an economic depression, um, where are you going to turn your anger into? The people that are the closest to you. You're going to turn that anger inward. So it's going to be your wife, your children, girlfriend, fiance, parents, even, hell, even pets. 35% of pets are domestic violence victims. And it's really unnerving. I see on Facebook various animal groups where pets have gone into shelters because they were almost burnt. They were thrown against something. They've run away and they're hiding in bushes or even in the middle of the highway. And people are kind enough to say, "Let me hurry up and get this dog to a shelter. He doesn't look good." And it's just unfortunate that as we face so many uncertainties now, these numbers are going to increase. So we have to do our part as a community by having these conversations, by having education awareness, and by being advocates and speaking up for those who are definitely afraid to speak out. I'm dealing with a situation now with a very good friend of mine. She's my sorority sister. She was attacked at work. Um, how this guy was able to dig his nails into her neck so deep that she can't turn her neck is unbeknownst to me. And there's cameras.
Mm.
So you're out in the middle of the floor because this is a factory plant. You're out in the middle of the floor and you could give a rat's behind, but you have your friends looking out for you, so that also helps. So for you to have the experience in committing such an act, again, ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and you're not new to this rodeo. Somewhere down the line, you've done this before,
Right.
you know, and because of this, she's now out of work. um, Short-term disability is not covering her expenses. Um, Thank goodness, another sorority sister I reached out to, we were able to get her some food because she has two children. And gratefully, her kids, they're in high school, they're working, they're trying to help. But it's again, this is how domestic violence trickles down in a family. You're now having children taking on adult responsibility to help an adult, their mother, who's hurt.
Yeah.
It forces you to grow up quicker than you like.
Oh, yes. I think a lot of people in our generation have experienced that. I did as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
You had to all of a sudden grow up and become the parent.
Yeah, absolutely. You forsake your own needs and wants for the betterment of family because you're having to take care of younger siblings, or you're having to manage a house while that parent has to work. I was raised by my dad. My dad worked two jobs. I had to man down the house. I had to handle a lot of things on my own. So it forces you. And then I had my younger bratty sister to contend with. Mm, by her having attention deficit disorder, that was hell. I mean, I'm just going to be frank, but it forces you to grow up quicker. So then when you add domestic violence into the picture, you're growing up twice as fast.
Oh, yeah.
Because on top of that, being an adult at a young age, now you're paranoid for that parent. If that parent has night sweats and insomnia, guess what? You're going to be up with them. Or
Yes.
if they can't get up to go run an errand, guess who's going to do it for you? The child. They're going to grab the car keys and say, "Hey, I'll go." Or do you need me to drive you? So, again, putting aside what they have going on or what they're needing, because the first immediate need is the care of that parent. And it breaks my heart and it pisses me off because I'm like, really, dude, at work? Ugh.
When it carries over there, you know that the home, that's got to be something.
Yeah. So again, in looking at Diddy and the whole Cassie situation, at work, really? Music is my livelihood. I'm an entertainer. This is how I make my money. And you deliberately drag me through a hotel lobby like I'm a wet sack of laundry. And it's on camera. That was
Right.
so unnerving to see.
Um,
Absolutely unnerving. I was flabbergasted and absolutely hurt for her. And she's a beautiful girl.
yeah.
So, and then what also brought to my attention was these so-called friends. Why aren't you telling him he needed help?
That part.
Yeah. Why aren't you saying, dude, you need to go to rehab or something? You need to go in a straitjacket. Something's wrong.
Well, that obviously, because when you're at the level of P. Diddy, you definitely, there's got to be mental illness. Well, sometimes evil is just evil. You and I know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
We've experienced that, but my goodness, this went on for years and years and years.
Years
And of
and not being
course,
treated. Yeah.
just like with a domestic individual person in the household, years and
Mhm.
years, people knew, people around, people were involved, and they kept quiet.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. And, again, looking at adverse childhood experiences in this broad of a light, he suffered from abandonment. You lost a father you never knew. So growing up as a man child in New York City without male guidance, you're searching to belong. You're searching for male brotherhood, if you will, to take place of what you never received. And, when it's misguided,
Well, it seems like to me the whole thing, when you look at it, it's all screams of power and control, powerful
absolutely
control, whether
power, control, and manipulation, because there
women
was a girl
or men.
on there from Making the Band, the second episode, where he made the group go all the way to Brooklyn on foot to get him a slice of cheesecake. That was 8 hours. You walked 4 hours to Brooklyn to get the cheesecake, and then you walked 4 hours back. And this is advertised. This is on TV. I remember this episode clearly because I thought they were insane for doing it. And I thought he was equally insane for making them do this in the middle of the night. But the young girl who was a part of that group, she also said he touched her in inappropriate places.
Mhm.
And it took her 20 years to muster up the courage to say that he groped her.
Yeah.
And there were parties that he threw where there were underage girls there, and he had sex with them. Then there was a young man who he didn't identify himself, of course, but he said he noticed even with Diddy's behavior around men, if he was sitting in a chair, he would lean back too far into a man's lap. He would show them porn on his phone of two men having sex. And he would say to these guys in the studio, this is what you do to get to the top. What? Ew.
Yeah.
But
Right.
somebody had to have told him that for
Right.
him to pass along that information.
Mhm.
And then I thought about Usher. Usher was 14 years old when his first album was produced by Diddy. So, and then I look at Usher today. He's always dated older women. He never dated women his age.
Okay. Not just us, or look at Justin Bieber.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
I mean, it's unreal. But part of my biggest question in all of this, Midori, is it seems like to me that we have, as a society, got the main monster, and nobody wants to look at anybody else who is involved who did just as wicked a stuff as he did.
Yes. Because again, and I was sharing this with Miss Amanda. We were talking about this a while back with the murders of Tupac and Biggie Smalls. Um, I remember watching the court case when they were trying to try Suge Knight. And Suge Knight said in the witness stand, when you solve one, you're going to solve the other. And that immediately threw me back to when Tupac was shot the first time in front of the recording studio where Biggie was. Biggie didn't see it, he was in the booth. Everybody heard the shots who weren't in the booth, and they ran down and saw him already shot. So he thought he was set up. Well, in doing the research A reporter came out and said, well, he was set up. He just didn't know it. Where he was shooting above the rim, he had a hotel. And Tupac was running with some people who were affiliated with Diddy. This one guy named Haitian Jack. They brought a girl to Tupac's room where Tupac wasn't there, and they gang raped this girl. Tupac came into the room and found her in blood all over his sheets. So, of course, he tried to help her. And the girl was like, "Why did you do this to me?" And he was like, "I didn't do anything. I just came in here. Who was here?" And after he calmed the girl down, she told him what she remembered. And when Diddy caught wind of that, he said, "Oh, we have to kill Tupac now. He knows too much. He's going to tell everything." And rightfully so, because he was already being tried for raping this girl. He was taking the heat for it. And meanwhile, the shots that were in front of Tupac or Biggie's studio were meant for Tupac. Were not meant for Tupac. They were meant for Biggie because Biggie was skimming Diddy off of his writing royalties because the group Junior Mafia, Notorious B.I.G. was writing for all of them, not Diddy. But Diddy wanted the writing credits. And Biggie was like, "No, I'm not giving you that. That's mine. This is my group. I'm managing them. I'm grooming them. I'm teaching them. I'm writing for them because we all grew up together. So, no, you're not getting this."
Mhm.
Yeah. So, when you can take that kind of evil on anyone, this is untreated abandonment issues, bullying issues, and manipulation issues. And even to, I would even go as far as saying emotional abuse, because again, you're having freak off parties in front of your kid. You're telling him to go in the basement, but at some point he's going to come upstairs.
Well, and it begs for me to think of at what young age did she involve him? Because look at the
Exactly.
young ages he was pulling other people in.
Exactly. So, at best, at least junior high school, middle school, junior high school, you're seeing this stuff. So at 12, because your brain, even though you're still a child, you can still make basic concepts of, ooh, whatever's going on here, it's not normal. Absolutely horrendous. And just to think, being exposed that young to that, because again, the stuff he was doing as an adult, you're doing it entirely too well,
Mhm.
almost flawless. That's scary. So I encourage everyone to check that documentary out. It's on Peacock. It's called The Making of a Bad Boy. You will be just as shocked
Mhm.
as I was.
Yes.
uh, uh, Absolutely unnerving. And now they're investigating Kim Porter's murder. They're trying to say that it was lobar pneumonia.
Mhm.
Mm, there are people saying that it wasn't. And she was in the process of writing a book about her experience or her life with Diddy, because even though she was with Albie Shore initially, she ended up dating Diddy and they had two children. And yeah.
Yeah. What do you Midori, what do you think, um, really, how does these kind of scandals, like, affect the public's perception of DV, of domestic violence?
Well, with this new information coming out, um, it's kind of twofold. For women, it is boys, of course, Buster. Buster, it's just the man. Y'all excuse my dog. Stranger danger.
Yes, we love the dogs.
You gotta love it. Come here,
Yeah.
buddy. It's okay. It's okay, Oliver and Buster. Ouch. They're gone. They're gone, Buster. I know. Come here. Thank you. So, with that, it's twofold.
Okay.
You have the one notion where, okay, more information is being presented, so I can feel comfortable in sharing what happened to me because we have more information that would be considered. Then on the other hand, after seeing something like what happened to Cassie, like it still shares this fear of what do I do when my perpetrator is stronger than me, not just physically, but mentally. You have this magnetic reputation. So who am I? I'll be diminished even more.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So it's just absolutely, while we're doing great work and looking at different angles to talk about domestic violence, we still need to educate the importance of speaking out
Uh-huh.
and the ramifications of it. And one good thing about this documentary is that it shows what happens when you have things that fester for too long sit inside of you. Not only do you hurt yourself, you hurt other people because hurt people hurt people, you
Uh-huh.
know? And if there's anything else that you don't get from that, that is very clear.
Right.
So it does give some incitement and encouragement towards looking inward and talking about those experiences that help to shape an attitude that you feel wasn't healthy for you. But on the other hand, there are women who were affected by men like Diddy. I think they're teetering, like, okay, I can come out, but to what extent would it cost me? You
Right.
know, would it cost me my job? Would it cost me my livelihood? What about my children?
Uh-huh.
Those are things that still come into play. And so we have to do better at providing comfort and safety and resources to assist those victims. Because even with men experience it too.
Oh, yeah. Well,
You
yeah,
know,
that was definitely evident in this situation for sure.
oh, yeah.
How
Oh,
do you
yeah.
how do you think the entertainment industry can do things like differently as far as you know how they address domestic violence? Because one of the things we talked about this the other night on our live things like the Blake Lively scandal with her movie and how that was supposed to bring domestic violence awareness and now it's all enwrapped in scandal. And so
Mhm.
the entertainment industry, um, it looks like there's moments of people who are trying to raise awareness, but it's beginning to feel like to me that it just their own personal issues even are overshadowing what good work people are trying to do. So, what do you think the entertainment industry can do differently?
They need to come out. They really need to come out full throttle and not dress up. not only what happened to them, but not dress up what they witnessed. And seeing Shine's documentary, which was another eye opener, um, where he talked about, and it was open, that he had no idea Diddy set him up until months before the documentary was wrapped up. And at the time, he had a convicted felony record to where he was deported back to Belize because he was never naturalized as an American citizen. His mother was,
Mhm.
but he was not. And I'm pretty sure either she didn't know she had to do that for him, or because she was a single parent and working, she just didn't have time. So a green card was sufficient. Well, since then, they did eradicate the felony from his record with everything that has come out about Diddy. And Diddy openly admitted that he set up Shine. It was recorded. Um, but for him to have the courage to share that openly in live, and as in live format, that was very daring and also very eye-opening, because not only does it let the public know that men are not guilty of hurting other men, but you can't dress this up.
Mhm.
It has to be talked about in the form that it is. You know, even when I think about my mother's disappearance and the lack of assistance we received from law enforcement when my family reported her missing, my family wanted to normalize the situation to protect me.
Right.
And it didn't help, because here we are 41 years later, we still don't have any answers. You can't dress up dirt. You can't put a suit on a pig. You can't.
Right.
So when you try to dress it up, and I understand the mentality of it, for us as a Black community, it's a slave mentality of, we have to protect the weak, because the moment you see a sign of weakness, you're going to be sold. You're going to be split from your family. We can't afford to have the family divided. We can't afford to lose another family member. But fast forward, our mentality of looking good, trying to be strong, trying to be self sufficient, not only are you hurting the family, you're hurting yourself. So there's still a divide.
Mhm.
There's still a weak link. There's still weakness. So you can't dress it up. You have to be in the moment and just blatantly honest about your experience. And so I commend Shine for being forthright and sharing his journey and his transformation from being this hardcore kid who wanted to make it to take care of his mother, for realizing I have to do a whole 360 and redefine myself, reinvent myself, and change who I associate with.
Mhm.
Because, again, he was preyed on. And that was another thing that both of these documentaries showed for me. Being a predator, that's an art form,
Mhm.
that's a skill, that it's so invisible because we don't see it. But being able to see how a wolf in sheep's clothing looks like,
Right.
it gives you some idea of red flags to look for.
Mhm.
And if you've seen them, talk about them. If you're not strong enough to confront that person, go to someone whom you trust and talk about them, and come up with a plan to protect yourself.
Right.
In fact, because of what happened with my friend at work, I am taking a self defense class on Sunday. I'm gonna learn how to shoot, and I'm gonna get my gun, my concealed to carry permit. Woohoo!
Well, I tell you, that's one of the
I'm
things I went
excited.
and learned. I went and learned with what happened with my daughter, and us having to go through what we did when she was killed. You know, and I don't know to this day. I'm proud of myself in the fact that I'm pretty good at my aim, but it it I don't know that it would bring her back or anything, but at the same time, it doesn't seem like there's anybody else out there who's going to protect you anymore.
No, no. And then on top of that, you know, my own abuser held me up at gunpoint. He strangled me quite a few times. There was one night where I almost passed out. But literally, I tell people this, in my haze, I saw a wing of an angel fly right by my face, and I somehow got the second wind to contort my body to bite him. And I bit him where it hurt, and I was able to grab the gun from him, and I held it on him. And he ran out of my house, and I locked everything that night, and I said, "Yep, time to go. Let me gather all the tampon rods that I hid money in. It's time to throw stuff in my car. Whatever I leave behind, I'm going to have to tell my friends to grab it for me." And they did. And even hearing them talk about how they dressed up in all black, they waited until it was dark to pry open the window to my apartment to grab my most important belongings because I was in such a hurry to escape. I left behind some important things and they grabbed them for me, and they kept them with their stuff in storage for all those years because it was 20 years.
Hmm.
Um, I really I said to myself back then, I need to learn how to better protect myself. And
Hmm.
so this class is going to be really enlightening and long overdue for me.
Absolutely, I'm all
Yeah.
for anything that helps a survivor feel like they can take their power back.
Yes, yes, and it's a must. You have to take your power back in order to function. And you don't realize how much stuff you harbor within yourself until you're placed in situations where it inadvertently comes out. So
Mm,
I work in a very demanding job, and things that trigger me, such as condescending tones of voices or bullying or gaslighting, it really caused my anxiety to come out in the form of panic attacks where I wasn't able to breathe at my desk. Or when I come home from work at night and I'm trying to sleep and I use a CPAP, but I still can't sleep. My eyes are wide open. So this is all triggers from my experience with my ex-fiance, triggers from what happened to my mother and what went unresolved, and just the lack of support in general from that situation. And you don't realize how much of that stuff you harbor.
mhm,
So you have to find ways to take care of yourself and protect yourself. It's a must.
mhm.
You got to function. You
Yep,
got to live. You still have bills to pay, for Christ's sake. You have a life that needs maintenance. It's not going to take care of
yeah,
itself.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
was looking through, some of the comments here, and can you see those?
Yeah, I can see him.
Yes, Amanda was saying we're 100%, and I think she was talking
Yeah.
about Cassie got backlash for the things that,
Oh, she did. That,
you
oh,
know,
man, that broke my heart so bad. And that's part of the price that we pay for choosing yourself over the livelihood of the community or somebody else. You are going to get that backlash.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's that mentality of you can't you can't expose the dirt. I mean, that's inside the community. What are you telling everybody else for? What did you do to cause it? Just kind of reminded me of when I was assaulted by a family member. My grandmother said to me, well, what did you wear?
Uh, yeah, yeah,
What did you wear that caused them to do that? Like,
yeah.
seriously?
No, I hear you. Let's see. And then we have Nancy in here who was saying, she said, not touching on delivery charges. Was there something in there about, um,
Yeah, I saw that. I was trying to figure that one out.
yeah, I didn't know if there was some aspect on the, are we not, the charges he was charged with is
Oh,
who she's
probably.
referring to.
Yeah.
So,
Or the lack thereof, like with the City College 9 murder. I'm just flabbergasted. I completely forgot he caused that until
mm,
I saw that documentary. And I was like, oh my God, why wasn't he incited for criminal charges?
uh-huh. No,
Criminal charges. 9 people were killed because of your error. And then for no one to make him take any responsibility or accountability for it.
right.
Ah, and those people were young, high
Yes.
school and college students, young. Their lives were snatched from them all because of your overzealousness. Again. Again.
Hmm.
Ah, unbelievable.
Well, as we wrap this up, I think maybe we wrap up with your opinion on do you think that this kind of stuff overshadows our voices?
It can if we're not consistent in talking about it.
Hmm.
Um, it can if we're not taking the information that's being presented and taking it to our communities and educating on it. We have to be consistent with the conversation. We have to be consistent with the research that's being done and bringing that to light. Uh, Otherwise, it will be seen as just another celebrity scandal that has nothing to do with common people. Well, let's keep in mind, Diddy was common folk. He didn't come from a rich family. His father got money because he was a drug dealer and he was a hustler who was murdered. That's a common story. That's a commonality. He came from an era that was very prominent of drugs because it was during the Vietnam War.
Hmm.
That's how Frank Lucas was able to make his reputation. He used the United States Army to bring in heroin from Vietnam to sell in New York. But if you look at the bigger trajectory, there was systemic racism, systemic oppression. The majority of the troops that were being recruited for the Vietnam War, or drafted, I should say, for the Vietnam War, were young black and brown and poor white kids. They were taken from their families to go off into foreign soil to fight a war that was never explained to them. So when you look at the overall trajectory in history where this took place, you can then begin to piece the dots together about Diddy's father. He was one of those guys that saw an opportunity to try and provide for his family, but it went wrong. It went left. He got killed. And as a result, You have a little boy that never knew his father. We have that in common, you know. My mother was taken from me at 14. So there's a commonality there.
Mhm.
Look how young your daughter was.
Yes.
There are constant common themes that we can extract from this story and use those themes to have these conversations. But we have to be consistent. We just can't look at it from the ocular lens of, oh, this is Diddy and he has money. No, once upon a time, he was just like us.
Hmm.
He just happened to have a softer pillow to land his behind on. We did not,
Yes.
you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. So, well, that's going to end this episode. In closing, what I'd like to say is I know that the media has power, but
Yes.
so do we. So, here at BTSADV, we're dedicated into shifting focus from abusers and headlines to survivors and healing. And if you believe in survivors' voices and the need for them to be heard, please donate now. You can help sponsor just one of these episodes or podcasts to help amplify survivor stories, and we can reach out to thousands who may need to hear it. So please donate to the Valentine's campaign that's being scrolled across the bottom, or again, give to btsadv.org/donate, and help keep these critical conversations going. So um, please stay tuned with us. We're going to be back live in 15 minutes. And the next topic we're going to bring to you is talking about our support line and how we help survivors out there and victims of domestic violence through resources and what kind of red flags to look for. And thank you, Midori, for being here.
Oh, as always, I always have a ball doing these podcasts. And, being that I've been with BTS since its inception, um, help watching it and helping it build from the ground up, there is really a love and speaking out and helping those who are trying to help themselves, even if they're not in the position to help themselves. It takes a village.
Mhm.
Not only does it take a village to raise a child, it takes a village to protect those who are raising children, because it's our responsibility at the end of the day to make this issue prominent, to make it important, to make it seen, and make it be worth something to our law officials. We have to make ourselves matter. If we can hurt people, we have the power to help people. If
Yes.
all you have to do is believe in what you're doing. And one thing about BTS, since its inception, it has been our mission to help educate and teach how you can transition from being a victim to being a victor.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, you are coming out of a major war. And though you have scars, even if you walk with a limp like Job, you're walking.
Mhm.
And that's a testimony in itself. And for you to be a part or to play a part of that victory is so paramount and is huge. And we have been so grateful for everyone who has partnered with us over the years. I really hope and pray that you still would want to partner with us, because we do a lot in this arena. We like to help our sisters face their challenges, but face their challenges with loving support, education, resources, and if nothing else, just to say, hey, you got this. And
Absolutely.
we're a part of that.
Absolutely. We're here for it. Well, thank you, everybody, and we'll be back live in 15 minutes.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.